I never thought my life would feel this hollow at 32. My husband, Mark, was always gone. Business trips that stretched weeks into months, leaving our suburban house echoing with silence. I filled the days with remote calls, folding laundry that smelled only of detergent, and evenings that ended with me staring at the ceiling, wondering when us had become just me. The routine was safe, predictable, and slowly suffocating. Then I slipped on the ice outside the mailbox. The crack in my ankle sent pain shooting up my leg like fire, and suddenly I cowled and even make it to the kitchen without gasping. Mark called from Tokyo, voice tight with worry but already promising he'd be back soon. That same afternoon, his father, Richard, 58, recently retired, broad-shouldered and steady as an old oak, showed up at the door with a duffel bag and a calm smile. "He'll stay until you're back on your feet, Emily. No arguments." His voice was low, reassuring, the kind that made you believe everything would be all right. I nodded. Cheeks warm with embarrassment as he carried me inside like I weighed nothing. That was how it started. Him walking through the door with that quiet presence, filling the empty rooms with something I hadn't realized had been missing. He moved into the guest room down the hall. Mornings, he brought breakfast on a tray oatmeal with just the right amount of brown sugar, coffee strong the way I liked it. He helped me hobble to the bathroom, one large warm hand steady at my waist, the other supporting my elbow. His touch was careful, never lingering. At first, but I felt the heat of his palm through my thin robe, the solid strength of him so close I could smell the faints and a wall of his aftershave, old-fashioned, comforting, dangerous in how it made my breath catch. I told myself it was nothing, just gratitude. He was family, my husband's father, a man who had lost his wife years ago and never complained about the loneliness. Still, when his fingers brushed the small of my back as he lowered me onto the couch, something flickered. Uncomfortable, warm, impossible to ignore. I looked away quickly, pretending to adjust the pillow under my swollen ankle. Evenings grew longer. After dinner he'd sit beside the bed with a cup of tea, sharing stories from his younger days. Working construction, raising Mark alone after their mother passed. His voice wrapped around me like a blanket, low and steady, making me laugh more than I had in months. Real laughter that left me breathless and a little ashamed at how good it felt. One night, the pain flared again. Richard insisted on massaging my ankle with careful, strong fingers. The lotion was cool at first, then warmed under his touch. I lay back against the pillows, trying to focus on the ceiling, but his hands... They were so sure, kneading the tension away with a patience that made my skin tingle. "You're still so strong and beautiful, Emily," he murmured, eyes on my ankle but voice dropping just enough. Injury or not, that has changed. Cheeks burned, the air between us thickened, heavy with something neither of us named. His thumb circled slowly, sending small sparks up my leg. I forgot how to breathe for a second, heart hammering against my ribs. He was so close I could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the silver threading his dark hair. The scent of sandalwood rose from his skin, mixing with the faint warmth of his body. I should have pulled away. I should have laughed it off. Instead I whispered, "Thank you, Richard. That feels better than it should." He paused, fingers still on my skin. Our eyes met for one heartbeat too long. The room felt smaller, the silence louder. I could almost hear my own pulse. He cleared his throat softly, but didn't move his hand right away. The almost moment stretched, trembling on the edge of something we both knew we shouldn't want. And then he said my name again, softer this time, like a secret he wasn't supposed to keep. Alone in the dark with the house creaking around me, I lay there staring at the ceiling. His touch from earlier, the way his palm had steadied me, warm and sure, kept replaying like a secret I couldn't silence. "He's my husband's father," I whispered into the pillow, shame twisting tight in my chest until it hurt to breathe. What am I even thinking? Mark trusted him, trusted me, yet the loneliness pressed in heavier than the blankets, the empty side of the bed cold where my husband should have been. And that faint trace of sandalwood lingering on the sheets from when he'd helped me earlier. It pulled at something deep, something I didn't want to name. I turned over, trying to push the thoughts away, but they returned stronger, like a slow tide I couldn't outrun. His hands had been so careful all day, never crossing lines, yet each time they brushed my skin, heat bloomed where they shouldn't. I squeezed my eyes shut, heart racing. This is wrong. He's 58, widowed, just here to help because I can't even stand without wobbling. But the memory of his breath near my shoulder as he adjusted the pillow, steady, calm, made my pulse skip in ways it hadn't in years. I curled tighter, fighting the ache that spread low and insistent, telling myself it was only the pain meds, only the quiet of the house playing tricks. A few days passed in that careful rhythm, him helping with everything while I hobbled less each time. Then came the afternoon. My ankle throbbed too badly for me to manage the shower alone. Richard didn't hesitate, just rolled up his sleeves with that quiet nod. The bathroom filled with steam fast, water rushing loud enough to drown out the world outside. He supported me under the spray, one arm around my waist, the other guiding the cloth with gentle strokes. At first it was nothing, practical, necessary, but then his hand brushed higher along my thigh, fingers lingering a second longer than they needed to, warm against wet skin. I froze, water cascading over us both, my breath catching sharp in my throat. He didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. The steam wrapped us close, making everything feel smaller, hotter, heavier with unsaid things. His touch stayed there, almost questioning the calus's rough in the softest way. My heart hammered so loud I wondered if he could hear it over the spray. This is crossing it, I thought, shame and something sharper flooding through me. Yet I let it happen, let his fingers rest there in the slick heat, trembling with the risk of it all. He cleared his throat softly, voice low and rough. Easy now, Emily. But his hand didn't move right away, and neither did mine to stop him. The water kept falling, masking everything but the electricity humming between us, quiet and soaked in danger we both felt but didn't speak. That was the first time. The line blurred in silence, trembling and unspoken, while my mind screamed to step back and my body leaned into the warmth just a fraction more. The next morning, the phone rang while I was still tangled in sheets that smelled faintly of him. Mark's voice came through from overseas, bright and concerned. "How's Dad taking care of you, love? He being too stubborn about helping?" I laughed lightly, keeping my tone steady, even as Richard stood in the doorway watching me, his eyes darker now with the new knowledge we shared. "He's been wonderful," I said smoothly, cheeks warming under that gaze. Really, no complaints at all. The lie slipped out easy, but guilt knotted tight in my stomach, twisting harder with every word from my husband. Richard's mouth curved just slightly, a secret passing between us that made the air thicken. He didn't look away. I didn't either. The thrill of it shot through me like forbidden spark, dangerous and alive, even as shame burned hotter. Mark kept talking about his meetings, about coming home soon, and I murmured all the right things while my father-in-law's presence filled the room like gravity I couldn't escape. When I hung up, the silence rushed back in, heavy with what we'd almost done. What we both knew we shouldn't want but couldn't quite forget. My fingers trembled as I set the phone down, pulse still racing from the call, from his eyes on me. What have I started? I told myself it was only comfort, a quiet bridge through the lonely days while Mark's voice faded across oceans. No one would ever know, just two people sharing the same roof, the same heavy silences. Late one evening, after the dishes were done and the house settled into its familiar creaks, he offered another massage for the lingering ache in my ankle. I nodded before my mind could catch up, lying back on the couch with my leg propped across his lap. His fingers worked slow circles upward, pressing just enough to ease the tension. Then staying. The sandalwood from his skin rose warm between us, mixing with the faint trace of my perfume until the air felt thick, charged. My breath shallowed. I closed my eyes, telling myself to pull away, but my body stayed perfectly still, listening to the low rhythm of his breathing sync with mine. It happened again the next night, and the one after. Each time the excuses grew softer, the touches longer. In the kitchen while he stirred sauce for dinner, his shoulder brushed mine as he reached for salt. I didn't step aside. Instead, I lingered there, hip grazing the counter, feeling the solid heat of him so close I could count his heartbeats if I dared. A stolen moment when he turned, our faces inches apart, his gaze dropping to my lips before flicking away. Neither of us spoke. The spoon clattered softly against the pot, and I tasted the almost kiss on the back of my tongue for hours afterward. During the day, the guilt clawed at me. This is wrong. He's family. Mark trusted him. Trusted me. If he ever found out, the life we'd built would shatter like glass underfoot. I paced the living room on my improving ankle, replaying every brush of skin, hating how my pulse quickened at the memory. I was married. He was my husband's father. The words looped like a warning bell, loud and clear in the sunlight. Yet when evening came and the lights dimmed, that same voice grew faint, drowned beneath the pull that drew me toward him again and again. His hands were different from Mark's, patient, knowing, tracing paths with a care that made my chest tighten. One night on the couch, the television murmuring loud enough to mask everything else, he pulled me closer under the pretense of adjusting the blanket. His palms settled low on my back, warm through thin fabric, and I forgot how to breathe properly. The ache loomed deep and insistent, a hunger I hadn't named until it was already consuming me. I hated myself for leaning in, for letting my head rest against his shoulder while some late-night show flickered forgotten colors across the walls. But stopping felt impossible, like fighting gravity when the ground had already tilted. The obsession crept in quietly at first. I started noticing the clock more, counting the hours until the house grew quiet and he would find a reason to be near. Shelgl healed enough for me to move without much help, yet I still asked for small things, a glass of water, help reaching a shelf, anything to feel that proximity again. The scent of sandalwood on my clothes after he passed by became a secret trigger, sending warm thrushing under my skin even in the middle of folding laundry. I caught myself smiling at nothing, then immediately flushing with shame. What kind of woman was I becoming, craving the very thing that could ruin us all? We grew bolder in tiny, breathless increments, a hushed moment in the hallway where his fingers grazed my wrist and stayed, thumb stroking slow circles that made my knees weak. Another on the couch, another on the couch. His breath warm against my hair as the TV blared laughter we barely heard. Each encounter left me trembling afterward, alone in my room, staring at the ceiling and promising myself it was the last time. But the promise dissolved the moment I heard his footsteps in the hall, steady and sure, pulling me back into the current. I wrestled with it constantly, the war inside me louder than any voice on the phone from overseas. Mark's messages came cheerful, full of plans for his return, and I answered with careful affection while my mind replayed the feel of calloused palms against my skin. I was drowning in the contradiction, desperate to stop, terrified of never feeling that alive again. The guilt burned hottest in daylight, yet at night desire flooded everything else, warm and relentless, washing away reason until only the next almost moment remained. My fingers still trembled sometimes when I thought too hard about it. The house felt smaller now, every room holding the echo of what we weren't supposed to want. And just as I lay there one evening, heart racing with the weight of my own secrets, he appeared in the doorway again, eyes meeting mine with that quiet intensity that always unraveled me. The air shifted, heavy with everything unsaid, and I realized with a sharp, sinking pull. The storm arrived without warning that afternoon, thunder rolling low and heavy through the house like a secret we could no longer keep. Power flickered once, twice, then died, leaving us in the dim gray light filtering through rain-lashed windows. I was in our bedroom, the one I shared with Mark, ankle still tender but strong enough now to stand without his arm. He followed me there under the pretense of checking the candles, his presence filling the doorway until the air itself felt too thick to breathe. He didn't speak at first, just crossed the room slowly, the floorboards creaking under his weight. When his calloused palm brushed my arm, the touch lingered longer than needed, warm and rough against my skin through the thin sleeve of my shirt. My heart slammed against my ribs. This was our bed, the place where I once waited for my husband's return. Yet here we were, inches apart, the scent of sandalwood rising from his shirt, wrapping around me like invisible chains. I should have stepped back. Instead, my body swayed toward him, drawn by that same gravity that had been pulling me under for weeks. His breath came low and uneven against my temple as he reached past me for the candle on the nightstand. Our bodies aligned for one suspended second. Chest to chest, his heat bleeding through fabric until I forgot the storm outside. A low sound escaped his throat, raw and unguarded, and his eyes met mine with a hunger so open it stripped the last of my resistance away. The line dissolved between us then. His hand settled at my waist, palm pressing firm, and I felt every ridge of those years' hardened fingers. Nothing more happened, yet everything had. No going back. The realization sank into me like rain into dry earth, permanent and irreversible. When the lights finally hummed back on, we were still standing there, breathing the same charged air. The bed behind us now forever marked by what we had almost done. And what we both knew we would do again. Mark came home for 3 short days between trips. I played the part perfectly, greeting him at the door with a smile that felt borrowed from someone else. His kisses landed soft on my cheek while my mind raced with the need to hide the faint traces left on my skin, the way my body now tensed at unexpected touches. During dinner I laughed at his stories, hand resting lightly on his arm, all while feeling his father's gaze from across the table like a secret current running beneath the surface. Nights were the worst, Mark asleep beside me, exhausted from travel, while I lay awake listening for any sound beyond the wall. Once, when my husband stepped out for a late call, his father found me in the kitchen. A whispered word, a hand brushing my lower back as he reached for a glass, enough to send heat flooding through me, so fast I had to grip the counter. We stole fragments of time like thieves. A moment in the laundry room where his fingers traced the inside of my wrist, slow and deliberate, leaving me breathless and aching with unspoken need. Each encounter ended too soon, leaving me trembling in the aftermath, guilt and craving tangled so tightly I couldn't tell them apart. The risk hung over everything, a shadow that made every glance sharper, every near touch more electric. I caught myself checking mirrors for marks, adjusting collars, forcing my voice steady when Mark asked if everything was all right. It was, and it wasn't. The double life carved itself into my bones, sweet and poisonous at once. Now the ankle has healed completely. Mark left again yesterday for another long stretch overseas, his farewell hug warm and trusting. The house feels the same from the outside. Quiet meals, polite conversations over coffee, the television murmuring in the evenings. But inside, nothing is the same. My father-in-law stays on to help with anything I might need, his sandalwood scent drifting through the rooms like a constant reminder of the hunger that has taken root in me. I move through the days carrying this awakened ache, a craving so deep it colors every ordinary moment. Yet when evening falls and the lights dim, I find myself listening for his footsteps, heart already racing with that familiar pull. I don't know how long we can keep this hidden. I don't know what it will cost us when the truth finally surfaces. All I know is that the woman who once waited faithfully for her husband's return no longer exists. In her place is someone forever changed, suspended between shame and surrender, wondering how much further this storm will carry me before it breaks us all. And sometimes in the quiet after midnight I catch myself touching the place on my wrist where his fingers once lingered, and I realize I'm already hoping for the next time the power goes out.